Hare Krishna. I want to hear a little something about Krishna's pastimes. So we understand from the Vedic authorities that Krishna, or God, is non-different from his holy name. He's non-different from his form. He's non-different from his paraphernalia, or the things associated with him. And he's non-different from his pastimes. And just by absorbing, remembering the pastimes as they're presented by the Vedic authorities, one can actually enter into the kingdom of God by remembering and hearing these pastimes and relishing these pastimes. So I want to read a little bit in the Krishna book, which is a summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which deals directly in the 10th canto with the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal abode, Goloka, Vrindavan, in the spiritual strata. Hare Krishna. And it's said that the whole spiritual world, everything, is contained in these 4 lines of this song, this mantra. So I want to chant that first. It's what our spiritual master taught us to practice like this. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Chana Vallabha Shrivaridari Gopi Chana Vallabha Shrivaridari Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Randana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parabhajakacharya Asta Sarasata Sri Shriman, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vanchikalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhya Evicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. The wrong glasses. Hare Krishna. You just find it online. It's easy to see. Just find it online. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. So this is chapter 29. And we're all the way up to the Rasa Dance introduction, where we are allowed to hear about the Lord's dealings with the young village girls. Up to this point, we've been hearing about his dealings with his parents, with the cowherd boys, and with demons. And now we're going to hear, and the cows, and now we're going to hear the demigods, his pastimes or his interactions with the young village girls. And, okay. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it's stated, the rasa dance took place on the full night of the Sarat season. From the statement of previous chapters, it appears that the festival of Govardhan Puja was performed just after the dark moon night of the month of Kartik, and thereafter the ceremony of Brihat Vidya was performed. Then the wrath of Indra was exhibited in the shape of torrents of rain and hailstorm, and Lord Krishna held up Govardhan Hill for 7 days, up until the 9th day of the moon. Thereafter, on the 10th day, the inhabitants of Vrindavan were talking amongst themselves about the wonderful activities of Sri Krishna. And the next day, Ekadasi, was observed by Nanda Mahārāja. On the next day, Dwadasi, Nanda Mahārāja went to take bath in the Ganges and was arrested by the men of Varuṇa. Then he was released by Lord Krishna. Then Nanda Mahārāja, along with the cowherd men, was shown the spiritual sky. In this way, the full moon night of the Sarat season came to an end. The full moon night of Asvina is called Sarat Purnima. It appears from the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna had to wait another year for such a moon before enjoying the rasa dance with the gopis. At the age of 7 years, he lifted Govardhan Hill. Therefore, the rasa dance took place during his 8th year. From the Vedic literature, it appears that when a theatrical actor dances among many dancing girls, the group dance is called a rasa dance. When Krishna saw the full moon night of the Sarat season, he decorated himself with various seasonal flowers, especially the Malika flowers, which are very fragrant. He remembered the gopis' prayers to goddess Katyayani, wherein they prayed for Krishna to be their husband. He thought that the full night of the Sarat season was just suitable for a nice dance, so their desire to have Krishna as their husband would then be fulfilled. The words used in this connection in the Srimad Bhagavatam are Bhagavan Api, which this means that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has no desire that needs to be fulfilled, because he's always full with 6 opulences. Yet, he wanted to enjoy the company of the gopis. Bhagavan Api signifies that this is not like the ordinary dancing of young boys and young girls. The specific word used in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Yogamaya Upasrita, which means that this dancing with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya, not Mahāmaya. The dancing of young boys and girls within this material world is in the kingdom of Mahāmaya, or the external energy. The Ras dance of Krishna with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya. The difference between the platform of Yogamaya and Mahāmaya is compared in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to the difference between gold and iron. From the viewpoint of metallurgy, gold and iron are both metals, but the quality is completely different. Similarly, although the rasa dance and Lord Krishna's association with the gopis appear like the ordinary mixing of young boys and girls, the quality is completely different. The difference is appreciated by great Vaishnavas because they can understand the difference between love of Krishna and lust. On the Mahāmaya platform, dances take place on the basis of sense gratification. But when Krishna called the gopis by sounding his flute, the gopis very hurriedly rushed towards the spot of the Ras dance, with the transcendental desire of satisfying Krishna. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has explained that lust means sense gratification, and love also means sense gratification, but for Krishna. In other words, when activities are enacted on the platform of personal sense gratification, they're called material activities. But when they are enacted for the satisfaction of Krishna, then they are spiritual activities. On any platform of activities, the principle of sense gratification is there. But on the spiritual platform, sense gratification is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whereas on the material platform, it is for the performer. For example, on the material platform, when a servant serves a master, he's not trying to satisfy the senses of the master. Okay. On the material platform, when a servant serves a master, he's not trying to satisfy the senses of the master, but rather his own senses. The servant would not serve the master if the payment stopped. That means that the servant engages himself in the service of the master just to satisfy his own senses. On the spiritual platform, the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serves Krishna without payment, and he continues his service in all conditions. That is the difference between Krishna consciousness and material consciousness. It appears that Krishna enjoyed the Ras dance with the gopis when he was 8 years old. At that time, many of the gopis were married because in India, especially in those days, girls were married at a very early age. There are even many instances of a girl giving birth to a child at the age of 12. Under the circumstances, all the gopis who wanted to have Krishna as their husband were already married. At the same time, they continued to hope that Krishna would be their husband. Their attitude toward Krishna was that of paramour love. Therefore, the loving affairs of Krishna and the gopis are called parakiya ras. A married man or a wife who desires another wife or husband is called parakiya ras. Actually, Krishna is the husband of everyone because he's the supreme enjoyer. The gopis wanted Krishna to be their husband, but factually there was no possibility of his marrying all the gopis. But because they had that natural tendency to accept Krishna as their husband, the relationship between the gopis and Krishna is called parakiya ras. This parakiya ras is ever existent in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky, where there is no possibility of inebriety, which characterizes parakiya ras in the material world. In the material world, parakiya ras is abominable. There are many other relationships with Krishna, abominable, whereas in the spiritual world, it is present in the super excellent relationship of Krishna with the gopis. There are many other relationships with Krishna, master and servant, friends and friend, parent and son, lover and beloved. Out of all these rasas, the parakiya ras is considered to be the topmost. The material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It is just like the reflection of a tree on the bank of a reservoir of water. The topmost part of the tree is seen as the lowest part. Similarly, parakiya ras, when pervertedly reflected in this material world, is abominable. When people therefore imitate the Ras dance of Krishna with the gopis, they simply enjoy the perverted, abominable reflection of the transcendental parakiya ras. There is no possibility of enjoying this transcendental parakiya ras within the material world. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that one should not imitate this parakiya ras, even in dream or imagination. Those who do so drink the most deadly poison. When Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, desired to enjoy the company of the gopis on that full moon night of the Sarat season, exactly at that very moment, the moon, the Lord of the Stars, appeared in the sky, displaying its most beautiful features. The full moon night of the Sarat season is the most beautiful night in the year. In India, there's a great monument called Taj Mahal in Agra, a city in the Uttar Pradesh province, and the tomb is made of first-class marble stone. During the night of the full moon of the Sarat season, many foreigners go to see the beautiful reflections of the moon on the tomb. Thus, this full moon night is celebrated even today for its beauty. When the full moon rose in the east, it tinged everything with a reddish color. With the rising of the moon, the whole sky appeared smeared red by red kumkum. When a husband, long separated from his wife, returns home, he decorates the face of his wife with red kumkum. This long-expected moonrise of the Sarat season was thus smearing the eastern sky. The appearance of the moon increased Krishna's desire to dance with the gopis. The forests were filled with fragrant flowers. The atmosphere was cooling and festive, and when Lord Krishna began to blow his flute, the gopis all over Vrindavan became enchanted. Their attraction to the vibration of the flute increased 1,000 times due to the rising full moon, the red horizon, the calm and cool atmosphere, and the blossoming flowers. All these gopis were by nature very much attracted to Krishna's beauty, and when they heard the vibration of his flute, they became apparently lustful to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Immediately upon hearing the vibration of the flute, they all left their respective engagements and proceeded to the spot where Krishna was standing. While they ran very swiftly, all their earrings swung back and forth. They all rushed toward the place known as Vamsivat. Some of them were engaged in milking cows, but they left their milking business half finished and immediately went to Krishna. One of them had just collected milk and put it in a milk pan on the oven to boil, but she did not care whether the milk overboiled or spilled, and she immediately left to go see Krishna. Some of them were breastfeeding their small babies, and some were engaged in distributing food to the members of their families. But they left all such engagements and immediately rushed toward the spot where Krishna was playing his flute. Some were engaged in serving their husbands, and some were themselves engaged in eating, but neither caring to serve their husbands nor eat, they immediately left. Some of them wanted to decorate their faces with cosmetic ointments and to dress themselves very nicely before going to Krishna, but unfortunately they could not finish their cosmetic decorations nor put on their dress in the right way because of their anxiety to meet Krishna immediately. Their faces were decorated hurriedly and were haphazardly finished. Some even put the lower part of their dresses on the upper part of their bodies and the upper part on the lower part. While all the gopis were hurriedly leaving their respective places, their husbands, brothers, and fathers were all struck with wonder to know where they were going. Being young girls, they were protected either by husbands, elderly brothers, or fathers. All their guardians forbade them to go to Krishna, but they disregarded them. When a person becomes attracted by Krishna and is in full Krishna consciousness, he does not care for any worldly duties, even though very urgent. Krishna consciousness is so powerful that it gives everyone relief from all material activities. Srila Rupa Goswami has written a very nice verse wherein one gopi advises another. My dear friend, if you desire to enjoy the company of material society, friendship, and love, then please do not go to see the smiling boy Govinda, who is standing on the bank of the Yamuna and playing his flute, his lips brightened by the beams of the full moonlight. Srila Rupa Goswami indirectly instructs that one who has been captivated by the beautiful smiling face of Krishna has lost all attraction for material enjoyments. This is the test of advancement in Krishna consciousness. A person advancing in Krishna consciousness must lose interest in material activities and personal sense gratification. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Person must lose interest in material activities and personal sense gratification. Hare Krishna. Krishna. So that's interesting because a few years ago, one devotee, I was trying to do some preaching in Chattanooga. I tried. There's never any loss in this endeavor. So whatever was done, but it's not like it's going to make, headline news, the preaching that I tried to do in Chattanooga. But one devotee came to visit and, she saw my efforts and she said, I can see you're not very advanced. You don't have a big following. You're not advanced. You don't have a following. And she was right about me not being advanced, but I don't think she was right about how to tell who's advanced and who isn't advanced. And this, Prabhupada says here in this paragraph of Krishna book, he says the test of advancement is that a Krishna conscious person loses interest in material activities and loses interest in personal sense gratification. That's the test, not how many people are following you. So there's the answer there. I was waiting to see, I kind of knew that, but I was waiting to actually see it written down or spoken or something. And there it is. I've been looking for it for like 15 years. And there it is. This is the test of advancement in Krishna consciousness. A person advancing in Krishna consciousness must lose interest in material activities. That doesn't mean they're not active. But they lose interest in the activities themselves, and their interest is in Krishna consciousness. So whatever they're doing in Krishna consciousness. It's not so much the activity itself and the results of the activity. It's the Krishna consciousness. Because no one can remain inactive even for a moment. Everyone has to be active. So that we're energy. Energy is always active. It's energy. So you can't remain inactive even for a moment. But the consciousness is in Krishna. And all activities, like Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, sacrifices, whatever you eat, whatever it is, whatever your activity is, do it as an offering to me in Krishna consciousness. And that way, you remain active, but your interest isn't, you're not all caught up in the results of the activity. And where did Krishna go? Who knows? Who cares? I'm busy. So you lose interest in the material activities. It's like love. Love is for Krishna, but it doesn't mean people don't have relationships, loving relationships, friendships, marriages, engagements, whatever, parent and child. And the love is there, but it's not exactly, because it's not on the bodily platform. The love is meant for Krishna. It's like some disciples asked Prabhupada once, he was expressing that he had some desire, like sex desire. He wanted a wife, a female companion. And Prabhupada, I guess there was a window there, he pulled the curtain back and it was a busy street below. And he said, that's all right if you want a wife. There are so many women, you'll find one, go get a wife. But love is for Krishna. love is for Krishna. So you lose interest in the material activities. The interest is in Krishna. And lose interest in personal sense gratification. The thing about satisfying Krishna's senses is that the devotee senses automatically become satisfied. A perfect example is prasadam. So if you're cooking because you want to eat it, that's one thing. But if you're cooking, you're making it nice as an offering for Krishna, and then Krishna accepts it. Actually, I was reading, I forget where now, but probably Krishna book somewhere, that the way Krishna accepts the offering, I'd always heard, is that he looks at it. He looks at the offering and he eats through his eyes, which, yeah, that's there. But what I just read recently is that actually the way he accepts the offering is not so much through the eyes, but through the mantras that are chanted when the offering's being made. He hears the love in the chanting. Namo Mahārāja Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaurtasaya Namaha Namo Brahmani Devaya Govamani Hitaya Jagaditaya Krishnaya Bharadaya Namo Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale. Like that. But he hears the mantras and he hears the love in the mantra, and that's how he accepts the food. We put a lot of emphasis on seeing, but seeing comes after hearing. First comes hearing, then comes seeing. So you lose interest in personal sense gratification, but when the offering is made with love like that, Krishna says he'll accept. And even if the devotee doesn't have any love, if they're in line with a bona fide spiritual teacher, then when they're making the offering to Krishna, they're not exactly making the offering to Krishna. They're making the offering, and the spiritual master is offering to Krishna, because the spiritual master has love for Krishna. But so the offering gets to Krishna. And then Krishna accepts the offering by hearing the loving prayers and seeing the offering. He tastes and relishes the offering of love. One offers me with love and devotion, I'll accept. Then the devotee gets to eat it and distribute it to others. And everybody gets satisfied. So whatever someone does in service to Krishna, then automatically they get satisfied. What is it? Sharing, it was watering the root of the big tree. Because we're all connected. You pour water on the root, that's Krishna, and the whole thing flourishes. It's like in a mundane relationship, if there's a piece of cake, just one piece of cake, and you offer it to someone and they eat it, it's gone. You don't get any. It's gone. They eat it, it's gone. You don't get to taste it. They ate it. It's gone. But spiritually, it's not like that. If you offer to Krishna, he doesn't eat it and it's gone and he turns it into poop and, it's not like that. It's still there. But he's accepted it. He's relished. He's tasted the offering. And then you get to taste the offering, you get to distribute it. So satisfying the senses of Krishna, you don't lose anything. You just gain Krishna. You gain your relationship with Krishna, loving relationship with Krishna. So there's more to this chapter. It's a kind of long chapter. I have to get it next time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare